This man, his name is Bala, and this woman is his wife Samira. For the first time, they were traveling across Sierra Leone and they saw a very tiny chimpanzee who was tied to a tree, and the person who owned the chimpanzee was willing to sell the chimpanzee for next to nothing. So after they bought the chimpanzee for $20, that moment will later help to create one of the most famous chimpanzee sanctuary in Africa. The very tiny chimpanzee they bought for just $20 will become one of the most greatest chimpanzee in Africa history. He was also known as King Bruno. But Bruno's stories will later take a very different angle and a mysterious turn from what was planned. So how did all this begin in the very first place? So we have to go back to the very beginning of this story. Before we go forward, if this is your first time meeting me, my name is Aruna. I'm a content creator. I've been creating content for the past 4 years now. So if you are somebody who likes to watch history stories, kindly do me a favor, hit that subscribe button or follow button so that we will be in this journey together. So without going further, let's jump in straight to the video. Let's look back how everything started. In the late 90s, Bala Amarasekaran and his wife Samila were trying to explore the country Sierra Leone. So during the trip, they saw a chimpanzee who was tied to a tree. The chimpanzee was very thin and very weak. So after they saw the chimpanzee, they felt that they could not leave the chimpanzee there. So they decided to pay $20 for the chimpanzee, and that was a huge amount of money during that time in Sierra Leone. They took the chimpanzee home. So after they take him home, they decided to name him Bruno. Bruno got the name from a British heavyweight boxer. Frank Bruno was fighting Mike Tyson for the heavyweight champion. Bala and his wife, they were watching that show and they get inspired and they decided to name him Bruno. But as time goes, Bruno was not the only chimpanzee they rescued. They started rescuing other chimpanzees. So they had the number around 7 chimpanzees. So they decided to build a small shelter in their garden for Bruno and the other chimpanzees they rescued. This was not happening outside the city, it was happening inside Freetown, and I personally know the specific area they were living. Eventually, what started as one rescue, so it became one of the biggest rescue in Sierra Leone history. But Bala and Samila, they still did not know that Bruno will change their life forever. But before we go forward, we also need to understand who was Bala Amarasekaran. How did he start it? Bala Amarasekaran was originally from Sri Lanka. He came to Sierra Leone when he was a very young teenager. So over the time, Bala and his wife, they become more interested in Sierra Leone, more interested on investing into this chimpanzee rescue. Then something very important happened. In the early 1990s, very famous chimpanzee expert visited Sierra Leone. His name is Jane Goodall. For the first time, he met Bala, his wife, and Bruno. After seeing what Bala and his wife were doing, he became more interested and wanted to know more about this particular rescue. Bala and Jane, they started arranging how they can make this dream become a reality. So starting from that moment, they had a very strong connection and they built the relationship to bring the idea of building a sanctuary in Sierra Leone. But as we know, building a sanctuary in Sierra Leone was not an easy task for them. So they had to go through so much struggle for them to even get the approval, from the government so that they can execute their plans. So the Bala family and Jane, they did not give up. They had to fight for years and years for them to get what they want. So this is how the story of Tacugama begins. Bala spent 6 to 7 years so just for them to give them a land so that they can start the sanctuary. So finally, the government of Sierra Leone decided to give them 40 hectares of land around the western area peninsula. Then in 1995, the Tacugama Chimpanzee officially opened to the public. So the Tacugama Chimpanzee is located 15 to 20 minutes just away from Freetown. So after they had the land, the number of chimpanzees was quickly started growing. Within about 2 years, so the Tacugama Chimpanzee already had around 24 chimpanzees. The small rescue that started in a garden, it now became a real sanctuary. But I want you to remember Bruno, the little chimpanzee they bought for only $20. He was no longer the little Bruno that we used to see now. As Bruno grew older, he became very large and very powerful. In fact, report says that he became 20 to 30% heavier than the average adult male chimpanzee. He became the king of the jungle in their group. But what happened after Bruno became Bruno will shock the whole country. On April 23, 2006, we had one of the most terrible stories in Sierra Leone chimpanzee history. Bruno and dozens of chimpanzees decided to run away from the sanctuary they were kept. During that escape, a very terrible incident happened to one of a driver named Issa Kanu, who was killed after the chimpanzee attacked his vehicle. That became one of the darkest moments in the Tacugama history. So they started doing their research for the missing chimpanzees. Fortunately, several of them they were captured later. But the godfather Bruno disappeared into the forest and he was never captured or even seen. In fact, he was not been seen since that very day. So the question remains, what happened to Bruno? Where did Bruno go? Was somebody else capture Bruno unknowingly to the family? These were the questions that still remain till today, and that mystery remains part of the Tacugama histories today. Yeah, but I want you all to know this: Bruno may have disappeared, but his story will never disappear from the Sierra Leone history. There was also a children's book that was written named after him. But not only that, his image is now part of the Sierra Leone passport, and the sanctuary he inspired continue to go in a large number till today, and the Tacugama became much more than it that keeps rescuing chimpanzee. Today, millions of people visit Tacugama every year. Then, in 2019, the government of Sierra Leone decided chimpanzee, the western area chimpanzee, became national animals. So I want you to think about this. One week chimpanzee who was tied, he was bought for only $20, and eventually it became an international known sanctuary. Today, Tacugama Chimpanzee Sanctuary is one of Sierra Leone's best known wildlife conservation project. But its story started with one simple decision. What do you think happened to Bruno after he disappeared into the forest in 2006? Do you think he survived? Let me know in the comment section. And if you learned something new about Sierra Leone today, share this video with somebody who loves African history. Disclaimer: this story is based on public reports about Tacugama Chimpanzee Sanctuary. This is the end of this video. You can please also check out these histories that I've made about different countries around the world. So check them out and let me know, and I'll definitely see you in my next video. Peace.